This is Talkative Karl. This video finally got around to setting up my list of my favorite Marvel films of all time. Now, my hope my setup is a little bit better because my previous videos, my face is a little bright, and I'm going to eventually adjust the camera a bit. It's a little off kilter because the cord is kind of short. I will rectify that in some point next month. But yeah, this is keep in mind this is me in the early stages of these on camera stuff because haven't gone on camera since the very first Strider or Yu-Gi-Oh video that I did back in fall of 2019. So uh, this is gonna be like a whole new thing for me. There's gonna be a few times I'm gonna be doing this on camera stuff per month. So just bear with me for a little while, and eventually you'll see slowly it start to progress into a better, at least a decent format. So we'll get right to it. I am going to begin with all, not just the MCU, but all my favorite Marvel films that I have watched over the years. So without further ado, let's begin. First, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, I thought the first Ant-Man movie was pretty solid, but wasn't exactly something like you know, I liked it fine. But Ant-Man and the Wasp sequel was a little bit more for me so far as uh, you get to see more Ant-Man stuff on top of the Wasp. And with Yellow Jacket being introduced, Ghost, normally the villain Ghost that's normally depicted as a man in the comics for so many years, and this is a female, which I thought was a decent change up. It's cool, uh, not necessarily needed because Ghost is a cool concept of a villain because he's just like a bad guy kind of spy, corporate espionage type of villain. Normally an Iron Man villain, but Spider-Man and Ant-Man is pretty much picking up a lot of, I mean not a lot, but a fairly bit of Tony Stark kind of bad guys here and there. But yeah, I enjoyed this thoroughly. The utilization of all the shrinking material, pin particles, is just very cool. And of course, this left on a kind of sort of cliffhanger at the end because this led into Infinity War, or at least in the story, in canon story, it ran parallel to Infinity War during the snap. So this is gonna be spoiler stuff, by the way, because all this stuff is pretty much over and done with kind of movies. So this is just gonna be just spoilers. So I like Hank McCoy, Michael Douglas character. Forgot the actress's name who played his daughter, but she's great. I enjoyed her in uh, Avengers Endgame when she came into the picture. It's just this movie is just like a pretty big step up for me. A lot of people love the first Ant-Man movie. I thought it was only okay. I guess it's a well. I'm about to say is like the same way some people feel Thor Ragnarok was either okay or great or just all out just bad. But I'm in the camp where I think this is a far step up from the first Ant-Man movie, just in my opinion. But both are alright. This is just slightly better. Now this is probably a bit of some controversy because not a lot of people like Avengers 2: Age of Ultron. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was, despite the Joss Whedon situation, because we wasn't privy to that bit of his side of him at the time. He was just like the golden goose and everything like that. But Avengers: Age of Ultron is supposed to be like that. Because like second movies just like the Dark Knight. The second movie is supposed to have been like the darker kind of tone to it, and it has its dark moments. Not like gore or anything like that, but it's just that this will be the introduction of the villain Ultron and Vision, the Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. I thoroughly enjoyed James Spader as Ultron. This is a awesome villain, and the I still to this day remember and enjoy the trailer to this movie where the Avengers just hanging out, which also is a cool scene on its own. Just the Avengers just hanging out, doing just partying, just just chilling. You chilling with your friends, you goof around a bit, and that was just like a nice little warm moment. But then you got this uh, machine just. You got this ear-piercing little screech, and you didn't know where the heck it's come from. And then you see this disembodied kind of mangled robot trying to walk and stuff, telling everybody, how can any of you be worthy? Y'all just puppets, tangled in strings. And then it's just like James Spader's voice for Ultron was just like it made the character. I hear people out when they said they think this is like the lesser version of the Avengers, like a slightly down, like a slight dip from the first Avengers movie compared to this, and it's like I understand it. I don't feel the same way, but I enjoyed thoroughly this movie. This is like an awesome. Uh, I mean, I think the first Avengers is still better than this, yes, but I think I don't think this is any slow like a dip in quality. Personally, I think this is still a solid Avengers movie, and like everyone involved was fantastic, and this is fits in an overall narrative of the MCU. Now this is another one. This is personally, I think, like the culmination of everything. I My mind was blown throughout the entire movie. Honestly, to this day, I watch. I don't even do this for any other movie, but every so often I go on my YouTube channel and just if I want to, I do suggest this if you want to brighten up your mood. Like I always do watch those live reactions of the theater audience when theaters around. Uh, Theater audience reactions of the third fight act of Avengers Endgame. Right, and it's right at that pivotal moment when like Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America is just looking down on the hill watching Thanos just sitting amongst the rubble that he created, and from that moment to the moment Thanos is defeated is like the best scene out of any movie that has ever been set up. Okay, and it's like I'm pretty sure at some point it might be beaten by something else that's monumental. Maybe something DC extended universe will do in maybe like a decade or so. But as of right now, just everything about this movie is just awesome. All the pieces was just finally forming together, and we just got the most epic fight. When just I just want to say it when Captain America lifted that hammer, Mjolnir, and just utilized it in such a fashion that we haven't even seen Thor do, but he wielded with such proficiency. With at the same time with his shield was just mind-boggling, and that was just awesome. And then from the moment then he just steps up, knowing that it's just him up against Thanos' army, and you like this is why I tell people, a few people who haven't seen, maybe not all the movies, but you should at least have seen half of the MCU movies just to get at least somewhat understand all the references that's being weaved together throughout this film, especially in the third act. And when you see Steve Rogers standing up to Thanos' army by himself at first, and you just remember from the Captain America First Avenger, and you just remember that thin, frail little kid who stands up to bullies, and it's like, I can do this all day, and he's like, he, I mean, it's just like you remember your mind immediately goes back to that. It's like he doesn't back down from any fight despite the odds, and it's just like that's Steve Rogers to a T. But then you hear crackle in the earpiece is like, Cap and Sam on your left. And you hear that on your left, your mind immediately goes back to Winter Soldier, and like constantly getting Falcon constantly getting one up by Steve in a race, and keep saying like on your left, and like you get a sense of joy. Not only Falcon coming back, but also he gets to be the one get that one up on Steve, and then that portal opens. That Doctor Strange portal opens, and you get to see my man T'Challa and Shuri and Okoye walking out with the Wakandan army, and it gets me when I see like when Steve and T'Challa look at each other like the best of friends who haven't seen each other in such a long time, and you got that Steve's eyes well up with like tears and just happiness, and we're right with them. The feeling was just like there in your pit of your heart, in your stomach, and you just like you're there. You like your friend is there. Your friends come here and they back you up. There's someone you haven't seen in 5 years, and he's you back. And then on top of that, Falcon running in. You got like the Guardians. You got Spider-Man. I tell you, I never cried in a movie theater in my entire life except 2 times, and both times was because of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Once when he died in Infinity War, and the second time when he came back, and I'm sitting there, I'm bawling, I'm losing it, and it's like like my hero, my childhood hero, coming back to life, and it's just like that was awesome. Then you got like the Ravagers from the Guardians movies coming in. You got all Doctor Strange and Wong and the Sorcerer Supremes. They're not Sorcerer Supremes, but just the sorcerers coming in. You got Valkyrie and all the Asgardians coming in, and you got like all the Avengers and like Ant-Man, Wasp. There's a little cameo with what's that duck's name? Howard the Duck. It was brief. You blink and you miss it, I guess. But then you got Winter Soldier coming back. All the women just hooping and hollering in my theater when he showed up. They went crazy. But you got everybody. Only thing I would have liked even more if they at least for a few minutes brought in like Quake, Sky, and the good agents of Shield that are left, with representing Midnight Wind and other few people that was there in the Agents of Shield show. They established both Ghost Riders exist, but it could at least brought in Robbie Reyes. He was prominent in season 4 of Agents of Shield. They could have at least brought him in for a few minutes and let him be shown. The Netflix Defenders and Punisher, they could have gave them a few minutes. They didn't have to do much, but at least show and acknowledge that this is the entire MCU that we've been with since 2008 with Iron Man up to this point. Even the TV shows, all represented and come to battle. And like that part, I wish that could have happened. I really wanted their time to shine. Though Charlie Cox Daredevil is coming back, hopefully also with the Kingpin and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and all of them come back into the fold as well. But that's a whole nother thing. But when they all came through the portal and Doctor Strange coming in asking one, is that everyone? What, do you want more? Yes, I want more. I want to bring in all the heroes. Yeah, bring anybody. It's like this is war now. This is the end game, and then it's like you hear that the score of the Avengers score playing, and it's like you just like in it. It's like the build up was real, and like the audience was with you. Like it was like it was one of those rare moments. I usually go to the movie theater early in the morning just to avoid dealing with crowds, so I can actually enjoy the film without any kind of disruption. But this is the one rare occasions where, like, not only I want to be with the crowd, but the crowd was all in sync because we all been through this for 10 years with all these films, and I tell you, uh, when Cap screams "Avengers!" assemble, and like T'Challa and everybody started yelling, screaming, like, and all the crowd was like yelling along with him, like, yeah, and just like we all was ready to charge, and it's like, F Thanos, we in this, we gonna like just put your foot in his ass, and and just like Ant-Man, as the giant man size, and just decks one of those flying serpents right to the ground, and then you see like you know what's Dave Bautista's guy's name, Drax, sitting there just stabbing people in this big old monster, and then like everybody working in sync together. Pepper Potts coming in her rescue armor, and just her and Tony in the air, just lasering fools in just like awesome armors, and it's like and Rhodey and everything like that. And then you get like Captain Marvel swinging in, and just wrecking fools. Now, I just want to mention this part. I know a lot of people don't like that whole. They thought it was corny when all of a sudden all the prominent MCU women just all of a sudden be in the same spot together to back up Captain Marvel. I know it's cheesy. I don't care. I think for all intents and purposes, they have earned to have a little cheesy moment, and just to see the MCU women just wreck shit. And they sound like, oh, we don't need. They didn't need Captain Marvel. Didn't need them. She's like a powerhouse by herself. Technically, if you pay closer attention, they are there as like cover fire, so she can take the ball to like that it's like football. It's like you still need your teammates. Like, I'm not a fan of Tom Brady, but I understand he's like one of the greatest like football players. Yes, but he still needs his team to back him up. Captain Marvel is like the Tom Brady in this scenario, and they need the other women there as like backup, lasering people and slashing people out the way, and just so she can get that gauntlet to the hole. So yes, she can like blast people along the way too, but she couldn't get it. She can't get everybody with one hand holding the gauntlet and the other just freely blasting whatever she can. But you still need like some cover fire. I didn't think that was corny. That's me personally. I liked it. That is what it is. But man, this movie is phenomenal. I at least seen it 3 times, and this is like a great. I mean, if they wanted it to, I was told my friend like like a week or two after I seen it in the theaters, if like Feige and like Disney, if they wanted it to, they could have ended it right there. That was a nice little book close, and I think for the most part people would have been satisfied with that, because this is a monumental film, and just everyone involved in all the things that birthed from the first Iron Man movie up until this point, even with the TV shows, good or bad or whatever how they came out, this birthed like something huge. And I still strongly suggest, I know people think like Oscars and Emmys, is just glorified circle jerk, but people involved, especially like Chris Evans and Robbie Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, they deserve the accolades. You know, like because at least a good portion, at least the first main roster of the Avengers in the first Avenger movie, deserve Oscars because they birthed something that was unprecedented. I mean, the Universal monsters like Dracula and Wolfman, they back in the day was the ones that first created the whole concept of a shared universe. But this took it to a whole nother level, to an unprecedented uh, numbers. This is like a phenomenal piece of work, and it had to be. I wanted to be acknowledged. Not that popular vote crap they tried to pull a couple of years back. That was stupid. I don't know what the line I think it was. Maybe because they just want to stop nerds from, you know, whining about it, I guess. But I gotta say, this movie is phenomenal. I loved it. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies, like at the tippy top. Then you got the Infinity War. Like I said before, like it's only two times that I cried, and this was another one, but mostly because of Spider-Man. I the level of trauma I can imagine kids must have went through after watching this, just seeing like half of the universe. Well, we only saw like planet Earth, but it's obvious he snapped half of the world away. Given what Captain Marvel said at the beginning of Endgame, is like, you know, what's happening here on Earth is happening everywhere beyond Earth, and they don't have the Avengers to make help them make sense of what's going on. She had to go out there in the universe and pass it along to the remaining survivors of other planets that what Thanos has done and what happened to their loved ones. And this is like a big deal. I don't even think I ever seen like this much death. Not like a traditional death. This is just like a snap and just dust. Everything in like at least half like and then you see like in like the beginning of Endgame when they was calculating the numbers, and you know Thanos did exactly what he said he was gonna do. Like you see the normal population, they show like different countries and states and stuff like that, and like specifically half of everything is wiped away, and of course everything came back, but this was a big deal, and it was like as awesome as it was, man. At the point of where Peter Quill like just uh just messed up the whole entire thing when he found out what happened to Gamora. At that critical point, I didn't want to watch anymore because I like not depressed, but it's like it just always saddens me just to see. I don't like seeing like my heroes, and it's like people that you like almost grew up with for 10 years, being just most of them just being wiped away in a puff of dust. And it was heart wrenching, and it's like as good as the movie is and everybody involved, it was just like the third act was tough to watch, but this is a great movie nonetheless. Then you got, of course, the first Avengers movie. It still holds up, man. I mean, especially towards the third act when, because but prior to this, people were so concerned with like, okay, how can they make this work? They've been building to this with each individual movie. Now, of course, they also had to go through some trial and error, mind you, because everybody, ever since this movie came out, and the success, the billions of dollars it raked in, everybody, like every other studio is trying to replicate this. DC, Universal. Okay, how are we gonna make this like a shared universe thing? Like we gotta get to Marvel's numbers, and it's like they try to cut corners without because they didn't feel like they wanted to like copy Marvel. Now, It's all been said repeatedly by other people, and it's just that. But it's true. It's like it's not. First and foremost, there's nothing wrong with copying Marvel what they did. They were blazers, and they left you blueprints. You have to make if you're trying to do what they did, you're gonna have to do the trial and error run just like they had to do. And matter of fact, they didn't have no blueprint. They did this all on their own. They had to figure things out. They didn't have a Marvel before them to uh copy. But they making it the word copy like a bad thing, like nobody ever had to copy or imitate something before. Just you know, do the individual movies that make sense in their own little narrative, and then piece together here and there like they did, and it's like it works. But they figured it out now. That's the point. So DC got that whole multiversal thing going on, and with Universal monster movies, I think they getting back on track themselves with the success with the Invisible Man, and now they coming out. I don't know if they're in production yet, but they have Ryan Gosling cast as their Wolfman, so they might be doing something. So they might finally got their minds right. But this movie blew up. Like I said, they was everybody was so concerned about how they're gonna make all this work, and they managed to pull it off. And it's like it weaved together so seamlessly, and just to see all of them together working together just to take down the Shatari and Loki, it was fun. It was like a huge deal. I to this day think it was like a a success. Uh, uh, you know, just a success just come to fruition in our eyes in that exact moment in the theater, and it's like, holy crap, they did it. Those son of a guns did it, and like I loved it. This is like an incredible movie. Uh, Everyone involved is just it did so well in this, and they keep upping the ante. I mean, like I said, there's been some trial and error at first, but they eventually, probably halfway to the end of uh, phase two, they pretty much got everything down to a science with how they build these movies and weaved everything into a perfect narrative, and like got all these little. I mean, right after this, they made the Agents of Shield TV show, the Daredevil Netflix show. That was a huge thing, and it's like this was like a very critical point, and that kind of from the ashes birth other stuff that culminated into something even larger. Because to this day, the Daredevil Netflix show is still like probably one of the greatest TV shows Netflix ever produced and Marvel ever produced, and it's like Charlie Cox is like an amazing Daredevil. I'm glad he's coming back, but like of course, the TV shows over time, people show running the shows compared to who were show running the movies, cooperation kind of fell through. It was some like BS that probably wasn't even necessary, but it is what it is. But this movie is successful. It's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I know you guys enjoyed it. So yeah, this is an amazing film. I love it. Of course, Black Panther. Black Panther, man. If you've seen my video with about uh, my hopes for my Black History Month video that I posted on the channel, which on Talkative Karl on YouTube, I mentioned about after watching Black Panther, I was hoping for more movies, not too not exactly like this, but something in the same vein where you got Afro-futuristic kind of culture. Excuse me. You got so many cultures represented in this movie, and it's like a fine tapestry of every tribe in Africa, and it's like you know, just being allowed to flourish and just it looks so good. And I watched this movie 3 times in the theaters. I mentioned in the my Black History Month video, I was like, I watched this movie 3 times in the theater. I never done that for a movie before, and that's how much I love this movie. And the sense of pride it gave me is just like to this day, just it's phenomenal. And I want other directors and writers who bring in black people into the room who want to make solid films to represent black people in a light that is just show our rich culture, our you know everything, our creation, our intelligence, our art, everything, uh, uh, you know, that we birthed, and because black people, are a huge touchstone in not only Africa but in like nations around the world, and we, you know, I wanted to see that represented just like Black Panther did it. Ryan Coogler, amazing director. Everyone involved. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, Lupita Nyong'o, just everybody. It's just great. Just from the moment that it opens up to the last uh, scene, and Killmonger's line, and to this day I don't forget it, and it's like so poignant. And it's just like probably one of the best lines in movies that I enjoy and still quote. Uh, Bury me in the ocean like my ancestors, because they knew that death was better than bondage. And I know I said Tom Holland made me cry in the theaters. Michael B. Jordan became very close to doing that with that line in the theater when I first watched this, and I just I love this movie, and I mean it still gets me to my core, and it's like everyone involved in this is just top notch. And unfortunately, with T'Challa's passing, I mean, he had, I think it was colon cancer, and throughout this entire, from the moment, I'm not sure if it was during Civil War when he was diagnosed or during this movie, but if it was during this movie, he went through therapy and gone through all these press junkets and the things with Infinity War and Endgame. He still did his job uh, up to the moment he passed away. It was such a huge shock, and every now and again it still shocks me because this man, is truly a king in my book and in a lot of people's books. And you know, I don't envy Ryan Coogler or anybody else who has to, because eventually they have to recast Black Panther. They say that they're not doing that, but eventually they have to. And people say they should get Shuri to be the next Black Panther. I mean, she did in the comics, became a black, picked up the mantle of Black Panther for a while. I'm not against it, but I kind of don't want her to be Black Panther. I mean, nothing against the actress. If she is cast, I'll be just as happy. It's fine. It's just that I don't I don't know. I mean, she's like the Q to T'Challa's James Bond. Q never became James Bond once the previous one stopped. But that's just my opinion. It's nothing against it, and like I'm all for it if it does come to pass. Other people say they want Michael B. Jordan to come back to life somehow, and be set up as a good Black Panther. Like good as in like he turned over a new leaf and you know was shown the error of his ways kind of situation, and picked up the mantle. But it's just like you gotta have a T'Challa, and you're not gonna call him T'Challa. That's just be weird to have Killmonger. I mean, he has a African name, but it would just be too jarring, even more jarring than uh, Shuri picking up the mantle. So I don't know. I don't envy anybody making that decision. This is just like a horrible situation to be in. But I, once again, thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and it's just awesome. The Blade trilogy. Now, of course, I don't like the third Blade film, but the first two are solid. Wesley Snipes as Blade, and to this day, this man is just like a legend. And like, to be honest, I think the first Blade movie was like the first big hit, Marvel hit, uh, before even like the first X-Men film, because it came out in 1998 or 1999, and it was a trailblazer. A lot what we have today, with Marvel specifically, is all thanks to Blade and Wesley Snipes. Now, I'm not too well. I'm cool with it, but it's just like when they cast the guy who played Cottonmouth in the Luke Cage season 1 as Blade. I mean, like, he's a great actor, but I still see Cottonmouth, and he played that role so well. And it's like, and of course, actors can play different roles for a same franchise or something like to that. I mean, it's fine, but it's just that you couldn't. I mean, you out of black actors to choose from. Hollywood really couldn't choose an up and coming actor, someone less well known. I mean, especially if you didn't want to bring Wesley Snipes back for several years of playing this role again, then you could pick, somebody else that's someone who has not been in an MCU property already. I mean, you seriously got a plethora of black people, that can easily audition for this. It doesn't have to be like a A-list actor. They're especially already who been in like an MCU property. It's just my take on it. But anyway, the first two Blade films are just incredible. Like, that line, some motherfuckers always try to ice skate uphill. That everybody and their mama know about Wesley Snipes' Blade. They enjoy it. It'd be interesting to see what they'll do with vampires in the MCU, because they bring in Blade, they got to bring in vampires. And I'm curious to know if vampires actually are in the MCU universe. Where were they this whole time when, things were going to crap with like half of the universe dying and all this other stuff? And that'd be interesting to figure it out. But yeah, the first two Blade movies like are top notch. I've probably seen them like a dozen times. Honestly, you skip the third movie, but if you're curious and you haven't seen any of the Blade films, you can watch 1 through 3. But anybody who already seen these films know to just stick to the first two. It's awesome. Wesley Snipes is just amazing in it. It's just like this, just good fun, and it's rated R fun, and it's kind of fun that we want to see from the MCU version of Blade, and not turn into a PG-13 crap, because just like with Deadpool and to a extent Ghost Rider, Blade should never be relegated to a PG-13 rating. And I think we learned that when we had the Venom movie, when it's supposed to have been rated R, it's meant to be rated R, but I guess Sony, has their like undies in a bunch about having, you know, because they want to break in the whole ticket with the kids and everything like that. So you can't have, uh, you know, a comic book character biting heads off in front of kids. Well, you're making a movie about a guy named Venom, an alien costume that is known to kill people. So what do you think was going to happen? It's still raining the big bucks. I still enjoy it, but it's just that that should have been your proof that it could have been even better if you just, you know, made it R. Some characters are regulated to R. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't make things PG-13, but it doesn't mean that you should. But yeah, check out like the first two Blade movies. It's just fun movie. Wesley Snipes is just, he's amazing in a lot of things, but to this day, he's probably most well known as Blade. He's the Blade, as much as like Hugh Jackman is Wolverine to this day. Okay, Captain America: Civil War. Now, this one movie was fun and intense. I mean, like it was like a better Civil War than the comic book. This is based off a comic book story arc in a comics way back in the early 2000s. I think it was the early to no. I think it was like mid 2000s, around like 2004 2005 when there's a Superhuman Registration Act. In case you haven't read the comics, here's a brief snippet of what happened. This group of young teenage heroes, team heroes that doing this, who do this reality show thing. New Warriors, I think it was New Warriors. This group of kids who, you know how kids are. They're rambunctious and don't think ahead. But they was sitting there trying to stop an A-list bad guy, Nitro, a mutant who has the ability to explode himself. They was fighting him in a populated area, and he, he set himself off in like a big explosion that destroyed a school with kids still in there, kids and other adults that was, teaching there, and it was so horrific. The world, or at least the United States, was clamoring for some kind of, some forced responsibility among the superhero community, because like these kids were not trained properly to deal with like a A-list villain who should have been taken away from the population to lessen any to avoid any casualties. Period. But in this, they kept the same ethos with Scarlet Witch when they trying to stop. I forgot the guy's name, but what's his villain? Can't even remember his villain name. He's a Captain America villain. He was part of he was part of Shield, but he was an undercover Hydra agent. I forgot his doggone name, but in the beginning, he's trying to suicide bomb himself, and near I forgot where they was at. But anyway, Scarlet was trying to contain the blast, but then I guess he couldn't hold it, and then before it got even safely in the atmosphere, it blew up near a building where a bunch of people died, including one who was an exchange student from Wakanda, which is like a Wakanda tie-in, and then they figured like, okay, this is kind of like in that same position. Okay, you got this lady who's untrained, and it's like then they brought in General Ross, basically tying in that okay, he's pointing out like New York, Sokovia with Ultron, and then this moment, and it's like yeah, the world owes you guys a debt that can't be repaid because you saved us from annihilation at least several times, and mostly individually. But that kind of stuff is just like you gotta be reined in, you gotta be like enlisted and all the other stuff, but half of them, of course, wasn't having it. Just like in the comics, it's like, they have to be deputized and their identities revealed and be like, registered with their names, in books and all that stuff, and deployed when needed and not whenever they feel like it. And of course, after a while, they nixed that. I mean, it's like, matter of fact, I don't even remember the last time that it was even brought up. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was brought up at some point, but it was like at least several years when they just like avoided talking about that because, uh, you know, obviously it's not a thing anymore. The comic, didn't do so well. But yeah, this was probably a more proper. This movie was a proper Civil War story, and I really wish that was in the comic version. But nonetheless, this was like a huge deal with just like all these heroes like just button heads over how to deal with like Scarlet Witch especially, but anybody like her in the future, and it's like in the Cap's positions like what if they send us a place that we shouldn't be, or worse yet, what if we need to be somewhere and they won't let us go? Because it's like, okay, yeah, they're vigilantes for the most part, and that is against the law. But these guys are superheroes and they want to do the right thing. And, you know, if, like you said, like Cap says, governments change. Ideas change. And it's like, you don't know who's going to be at the helm. And the document is pretty much, and all of this, like a real lawyer looked over this kind of thing. I watched, if you ever watched Legal Eagle, he went over, check it out, it's really good. He went over like the legality of the Sokovia Accords, the contract in the movie. Like all of that is pretty illegal. It wouldn't fly, even if the UN, set it up. Like in the movie, the UN all like put this all together. It's unconstitutional because that's like when like back in the day when people was forced to enlist, like young kids was forced to enlist. It's the same thing here when you're forcing people with abilities to be forced to enlist in like army or being deployed in probably war-torn areas and stuff like that. That's against law. You don't do that anymore. But this movie is just like, besides all that, this movie was an incredible thing. It was like a serious thing when it's like you see like Cap and Iron Man just butt heads to that degree because they was already like they're friends, but it's like friends that feel like they should check each other, but they also like just like the opposing ideologies, and it's like it was an interesting topic of discussion about what the themes are here, but just an overall great movie. I love this movie. It's still holds up, and an amazing film. And also the introduction of Spider-Man. That part, it like still was like a very like pivotal moment when like Marvel finally acquired the rights to have Spider-Man in their films. And that was a huge deal. That was a moment that everybody was just waiting for. And Tom Holland is still like one of the best Spider-Man. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, a lot of people put this on their very tippy top list of favorite Marvel films. I put it high, but not that high. It's probably like number 6 or 5 for me as my favorites. But Chris Evans, by far, is my favorite Hollywood Chris. Like he's awesome, just a generally good dude. It's just like with Keanu Reeves. It's like he's like these people are just like genuinely good individuals in real life that honestly are real heroes. And it's like when you look at Chris Evans, you just see Captain America and you just want to believe anything he says, and you just want to follow him to the edge of the earth because you can trust him. And this movie, you know, really was like a shift in like a lot of movies that have like little shifts, like with the first Avengers movie being like a big shift, you know, with like TV shows and everybody referencing the Battle of New York and all of this stuff, and bringing in the TV show Shield. This movie, like, because this is around the time when Agents of Shield was getting to the second season, and it connected because like this is when the downfall of Shield came in, because Hydra infiltrated his ranks for since the Nazis were defeated in World War II, they went to hiding, but a few of them hid within the ranks of Shield, waiting biding their time until they grew in numbers to just overthrow everything. And I mean, at the beginning of the movie, it's like uh, uh, it was a very cool conversation with Nick Fury and Cap, where like uh, Nick was just pretty much explaining to him about how like we need these like helicarriers to easily point uh, uh, to whomever who might be a threat before they even jumps off, because we can't constantly respond. We want to be proactive and just nip it in the bud before it festers. And to Steve's point of view, is like that's not uh, protection, or at least I might be butchering this. Uh, this is fear, not protection, something like that. It's like uh, you're pointing a gun at everybody and calling it, protection or security, and that's not. It's kind of like forcing people to be good, and that's not good. And of course, Nick Fury is kind of more cynical than Cap, because his point of view, he's more world weary. But Cap, it's like Cap and Superman are like those kind of characters that they have that positive optimism. They understand like the realism of the scenarios they're in, but they don't allow themselves to be forced to change by the world around them. They stay their ground and show people what the right way is, and forces them to change their outlook. And not force, but like convince them to change their outlook, no matter how like dire the situation is or how cynical the world wants you to be, despite everything. But this is like Captain America at its Captain America's, and like everyone involved is just like amazing. You introduce yourself to like the Winter Soldier. Sebastian Stan is great as the Winter Soldier, and like that trailer. I still remember the trailer when he caught that shield and then just baffled everybody. It's like, oh my god, he like like no one ever like got that kind of skill to just catch Steve Rogers' shield barehanded. Well, not bare, he got a metal arm, but still though. And then it's like everyone involved is just like, this is like a crucial thing. My father took me this not opening day, but like a day or two after it was released as like an early birthday uh, thing to do, and like I enjoyed it. I still remember going to the theater with my father and my little brother just to see this. It's like probably the last movie I went to go see with him before I started just going to movies on my own. But it was like a nice time at a movie there with my father, and it's like what a nice little way to like just before I just start to work and gain money to go on my own to the theaters whenever I want to. It's a nice little. It's what a great mood to wrap up a nice little. Just it's not like I can't take my father to go see a movie again, but it's just like this one like spoke still speaks to me, and it's like okay, I had like this movie. I had a nice moment with at the theater with my father. So yeah, this is like a great film. I enjoy it, and it's been a while since I went back to it. Like I said, it's not my tippy top favorite, but I still enjoy it. Captain Marvel. Now, unlike a lot of people who I mean, I understand what their point of view is, but I enjoyed this movie for what it is because Brie Larson is an amazing actress, despite what most people might say to the contrary. I liked her in this. Like, of course, like it didn't help with the writing because, like, whomever I don't know who was the director in this, but whoever was giving her, writing up her lines, or whoever was directing her wasn't doing a very good job. There's only so much she can do. The blame isn't 100% on her, in which a lot of people want to put it on her. But I, despite all that, still enjoyed the movie. This movie came out in between Infinity War and before Endgame came out, and this is based in the '90s. The only and like it's kind of like the Captain America, the first Avenger movie. It's kind of like a time, like a period movie. This is pretty much based in the '90s, and the only thing I wish they did, just like with Guardians of the Galaxy, with all that '80s uh, music, uh, this since it was based in the '90s should have been not totally heavy, but at least a good uh, uh, three or four very recognizable '90s music. Because a lot of us grew up in the '90s, at least by this point, at least a good bulk of people in my generation grew up in the '90s. Hey man, how you doing, Daniel? I mean, the only song I remember out of this movie was Kurt Cobain. Uh, and that's only because I remember it also playing in the uh, Defenders Netflix trailer, "Come as You Are," which I thoroughly enjoy. But I wish they put in more '90s music to really, give it that some feeling that uh, just like really, really get into like that mood. Like, yeah, this is the '90s, and it's like it didn't showcase that much aside from maybe like Blockbuster and Kurt Cobain. Uh, thing that, like, and then of course, like, a bunch of arcades in like a bar, with some classic '90s, like, classic arcade games. But besides all that, uh, it didn't really it didn't really feel like the '90s, like, truly. But yeah, but I still enjoy this movie for what it is. And they introduced the scrolls, and I like the nice touch where everybody suspected, okay, these scrolls are known to be bad guys in the comics, but they flipped the script on us and made them like, just regular people and refugees, trying to escape like extinction by the Kree people that she was working with. And it's like that was a nice little flip the script. But there might be like a splinter group, because eventually we'll bring in the Fantastic Four, because that's what in this phase, it's phase 4 now, and they're bringing in the Fantastic Four. And it's, of course, I really want to see the Super Scroll. He's one of my favorite Marvel villains, next to like the Scorpion, uh, the Spider-Man's bad guy. But I, you know, of course, I expect them to, if they want to bring in the Super Scroll, which they kind of have to eventually, because Doctor Doom's gotta be a Fantastic Four villain. They gotta bring him in eventually. But also, I want to see like other rogues galleries of the Fantastic Four, like the Super Scroll, whose power is like he's like one of the baddest of the scrolls that was given the abilities of all the four Fantastic Four members into one body, and he just like wields it with such efficiency and deadly ability. And it's like, I want to see that, and I'm pretty sure they might in future movies, because they're supposed to be making like a TV show with Nick Fury on Disney Plus, called Secret Invasion. People wanted like it to be a movie. I think it's better as a TV show, but we'll probably show like a splinter group of scrolls that are bad, because like just like with humans, not everybody's all good and not everybody's all bad. It's gonna be like some kind of splinter group that's gonna be a little more evil, and one of them should be Clerk, aka the Super Scroll, and I cannot wait for that. But yeah, I enjoy Captain Marvel. I might be in a minority in this, like a few people like you, Daniel. Yeah, I enjoy this movie. Not the best. It's not on the scale of like Spider-Man: Homecoming, or at least not on the scale of the first Avengers film, or even well, yeah. Well, it depends on your interpretation. It might be on par with the first Iron Man movie, but yeah, it's solid. It's a solid film. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. Think it gets a bad rap. It's mostly on the fault of the director and the writers. Brie Larson's pretty much taken most of the heat since then. So it's really not fair. But they got a new director in Captain Marvel 2 and a bunch of new writers. So, because they expected Captain Marvel to be like the first Wonder Woman movie, which I thought it was going to be. And I think they kind of hit their mark. I think most people was more so upset because Scarlet Witch should have gotten her own movie before Captain Marvel. But I guess Captain Marvel was like, she's the flagship of Marvel because her name has the word Marvel in it. So, but yeah, this movie, in my opinion, is still solid, rock solid, and it's really good. And I think people need to be a little bit more open minded and understanding. Okay, Daredevil, Ben Affleck's Daredevil movie director's cut. I specifically wanted to find out a photo with the director's cut because uh, it gives you the theatrical version doesn't paint the movie in like a very good light, and the director's cut filling a lot of gaps it left off. So I, if you haven't seen the movie version of Daredevil with Ben Affleck, find the one with the director's cut. So when you watch it from beginning to end, you'll find some pleasure in it. Of course, it's not fair, but it's still not on par with Charlie Cox's Daredevil. That blew everybody out of the water with how great that is. But yeah, I think Ben Affleck was at the time was a great Daredevil. It's just that Marvel films of that time wasn't giving it its due, or at least wasn't superhero movies in general wasn't being taken that seriously by Hollywood at that time until the first Iron Man movie rolled around and changed the game. But yeah, Ben Affleck's Daredevil is the director's cut. I thoroughly enjoy, and Colin Farrell's Bullseye. He has his moments. I don't hate him like most people. I know he's look corny. Not anything like the TV show's Bullseye in season 3. That version was very. I mean, they're both very deadly, but the one on the TV show really played it straight and was terrifying. But I still enjoyed this movie. Deadpool 1 and 2. Man, this movie rocked. The first movie, definitely rocked the whole world of everybody. Because honestly, Ryan Reynolds did everything in his power to make sure this movie, the first movie, was put through. And man, it was. I mean, even though, because people involved was the same people that was involved in the first John Wick film, so you can tell that by how everything worked out with like just on a minimum budget, they produce a quality film that blew everybody out of the water. Ryan Reynolds Deadpool is amazing, and with 1 and 2, it was the only movie actually properly depicts the X-Men the way that you always envision them to be, just like in the 90s, like the TV show. Yeah, with Colossus looking like Colossus. He's supposed to be a big dude with like just covered in metal. And Negasonic Teenage Warhead was amazing. Like her and her banter with Deadpool was so funny. Ryan Reynolds is like, just like with Hugh Jackman, he's always gonna be Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds will always be Deadpool, and like he loved this character so much that when he was cast in X-Men Origins Wolverine, uh, everybody agrees that the best part of that movie was pretty much Ryan Reynolds' part at the beginning of the film. After that, it was like, mm. But what they did to him was like so dirty. And it was like I said at the time, comic book movies wasn't being taken that serious. But it took years, but eventually Ryan Reynolds finally, and usually with his own money, finally got everything put through to get this movie out there. And it was like it was awesome. Of course there was like a test footage that came out that kind of helped boost the interest because everybody was clamoring for it because of how well there's a test footage out there. Check it out. You can see why because it was part of that was used in the first Deadpool movie, but man, it was so good. And it's like the villain Francis is amazing. I like that actor, and you know that the fight between the two is just amazing. And in the third act of the first movie, they send there fighting on top of a helicarrier, and it's like that couldn't be just something Deadpool is just mocking. It's like is that like a little seed? Like yeah, one day we'll be in the MCU, and it's like okay, was this leftover from like what happened in Winter Soldier? And it was like you had like a destroy abandoned helicarrier you're fighting on. Like I don't know, man, but and Deadpool 2, forgot the guy's name who played Cable and Thanos, Josh Brolin. He's amazing as both of those characters, Thanos and uh, Cable. Well, I think I thoroughly enjoyed him as Cable. The fourth wall breaks was hilarious. Uh, man, it was funny. Yeah, Daniel, that line. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. The in episode, not episode, but the sequel. When I forgot, what Cable said exactly, but he's asking like, "Who do you think you are?" And Dev was like, "I'm Batman." And then the other things he mentions like, "Oh my God, you're so dark. Are you sure you're not from the DC universe?" And it's just like everybody's just losing their mind. It's just from the trailers, mind you, but everything part one and part two is just amazing. It's a funny movie. I love these two films, and I kind of want them to be on Disney Plus. I think it's on Hulu, but uh, and it's so clever that the first movie was pretty much just a love story in uh, around a superhero film, and it's like I like the idea of just combining genres into the superhero film, like love story superhero film. You got a spy movie like Winter Soldier superhero film. Uh, that kind of thing is so clever and it's got a nice little combo just to keep things interesting. But yeah, Deadpool is easily like a good love story. But uh, the sequel, I mean, sure, probably not as great as the first one, but it's still great in my book. And like you get like a brief cameo with like the uh, Fox X-Men with like James McAvoy and all that group, and it's like when I saw that man, that blew my mind in theaters. Like, hold on, you're acknowledging them. It's like and it's like of course like they just closing the door and like I'm not involved in this movie, and it's just I mean it's great, hilarious films, and I cannot wait. Of course, yeah, Ryan Reynolds Deadpool is gonna be folded into the MCU like the X-Men, and thank God they gonna make it rated R because it because like not only the fans wouldn't like it, Ryan Reynolds will be strictly opposed to it. He fought to make it R for when it was supposed to be folded into the MCU. He fought to make sure it stays rated R. All appreciation goes to him. Honestly, because there's a few animated Marvel films that's going to be in this. Uh, I like when I mentioned when I was going over my favorite non superhero films. I mentioned Harry Potter and my cousin who got me into that. It's because of that I just got a whole new appreciation to like supernatural magic based superheroes. Doctor Strange, I love Doctor Strange, and like this movie, The Sorcerer Supreme, is one of it was during that time when Marvel's putting out some original content like DC did like with the Under the Red Hood and that kind of thing. They have like this Doctor Strange movie is about his origin. Now this has its grim moments and uh, gory-ish, but not all the way gore. But it has its slight gore moments in here. But this movie is like awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Uh, it's just telling his origin story. I wish this movie would have gotten a sequel, but it was just like an awesome interpretation of Doctor Strange's origin, and the way magic was utilized in this film was amazing. I just want to take a moment to mention. Uh, Now, there's a few comments that I really enjoyed uh, uh, in the past several years. One being that there's Doctor Strange, two Doctor Strange comic volumes that kind of interweaving into themselves. It's called Way of the Weird and uh, The Last Days of Magic. Uh, Way of the Weird is Volume 1, and Last Days of Magic is Volume 2. And it's pretty much great art, great. It included some points in the beginning about uh, his origin story, but it was just a snippet, just to culminate to a point that the Ancient One, his master, was pretty much trying to teach him about the ways of magic. It's like a lesson that was like being trying to drive home, and it kind of uh, came out like that because the way of the live action MCU Doctor Strange film, where magic is supposed to have a cost, because they put that in around that time because they don't want to make magic users like Doctor Strange too OP without some kind of kryptonite. So they implemented, which I think is not such a bad idea, that yeah, whatever you put out, there's a cost against you. And now, of course, in the comics, that might result into something like you puking up your guts days on end, or you might have to sacrifice like rabbits, hundreds of rabbits, just to make sure that uh, Hawaii doesn't drop into the ocean or something. Because wherever you give out, the universe, sends back, probably twice as much. But that's not brought up here because it's kind of not old, but it was like probably in around like 2002, three, something like that. But it's a great film. And if you want to get into some Doctor Strange, it's like a decent animated movie. And check out those two comics that I was recommending. They are very great comics. I love those. Then of course you get the live action MCU Doctor Strange movie. I tell you, this is probably one of the few rare movies that I see that the hero beat the ultimate bad guy without just resulting in just punches. This is actually them using their head, or at least he using his head, because they utilized the whole theme of time with this, because he had like the time stone in the Eye of Agamotto, and the way time was being referenced constantly in this movie and spoken about and utilized is just very incredible. And it's just like when I mentioned about Inception in my non superhero film list, it's like this movie took that, folding in on its, world folding in on itself, and it took it and multiplied times three, because like it was very trippy. It's like I told people after I saw, it, I was like, you probably want to watch this high, because I'm pretty sure you'll probably love it even twice as much. Because this movie is great. I love this film. Uh, everyone involved. Mac, was it Mac Mickelson or Miles Mickelson? Like Hannibal. He's pretty much Hannibal. Uh, he's awesome as a villain, Caecilius, and then LGO4 as Baramoto. Another little alteration because Baramoto in the comics is a white guy, but here he's a black guy, which not a big deal. It's a nice little change. Uh, but he has an awesome arc, and just Dormammu. We never would have expected to see Dormammu in this film, and I don't think that was ever seen or like talked about when people were speculating. People assumed that they wasn't going to bring in Baramoto. Obviously, he's in there, so or at least Caecilius, he's obviously the main bad guy, so they got to fight him. And then next film they bring in Dormammu. No, they brought in Dormammu towards the third arc. Well, at least like the last 5 minutes of the movie, and Doctor Strange beat him by because the Caecilius was trying to bring in the dark dimension into the real world. So Doctor Strange utilized the time, a certain power in our world into his world, and just pretty much time looped. He pretty much Groundhog Day the bad guy. I mean, of course, he had to die several times over, but it's like he can live with that because that means like he'll be too busy with him to attack Earth. So he was satisfied with that, in. But that line, Dormammu, I've come to bargain. And like I was quoting that line for like weeks. It's like telling people I come to bargain. And it's like that is funny, but it's so clever. I thought it was the most clever way of defeating a bad guy by using your head and just you Groundhog Day your villain into submission. And of course, he has the second sequel, Multiverse of Madness, where he will be instrumental in bringing in a lot of multiversal stuff with Spider-Man 3, with bringing in Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland together, and then of course you got Scarlet Witch and Vision. They're dealing with the WandaVision TV show, which by the way is very good. I highly recommend it if you have Disney Plus. But yeah, that recently been speaking about multiversal stuff, at least hinting at it. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but you just gotta check it out for yourself. Hopefully, you wasn't already spoiled in the if you got Twitter or anything like that. Hopefully, you wasn't too spoiled or spoiled at all. But yeah, I think Doctor Strange is very good. One of my favorites. I love Doctor Strange as a character. Is easily probably become one of my favorite heroes. Because Spider-Man, of course, is my number one, and Superman, and then of course, Batman, Deadpool, and Doctor Strange will be easily up there. Because, like, man, I love everything about Doctor Strange and everything. Any comic book he's in, I give it a read just to be engaged in that world. So, like, yeah, this movie is phenomenal. And BD Wong as Wong, he's funny, hilarious in this movie. Every scene he's in, he's just like, you just love anytime he talks. Okay. Now, like, not like a lot of people, but compared to like that Fan Four Stick crap, they try to do, trying to bring, try to reboot the Fantastic Four. I think it was supposed to be on a Fox property. Yeah, it was crap, and it made people look back on these two films. The this is when Chris Evans was the Human Torch before he became Captain America. But it made people look back on these movies more fondly because unlike the reboot, these two movies stuck to the same like core aspect of the Fantastic Four and what made them them. Now, of course, they have their fair bit of issues, like this whole lame drama between Sue and Reed, and like the weird dialogue that mostly coming from Jessica Alba. It's just it could have been better, but I still enjoyed it, especially the first one. I think uh, personally, I think this is true to what the core aspect of the Fantastic Four is. But if you don't think so, there is a TV show that came out around like 2005, 2006 called Fantastic Four World's Greatest Heroes. It's on Disney Plus. I'm so glad they included that. It's only one season, and I think it was like 13, somewhere between 13 to 20 episodes, somewhere around there. Uh, you can check it out. I guess they feel like at least some people feel this probably should be best relegated to TV shows, so that way you get to understand the characters better. But it can be done. They're making a film, so they're making a new film for the MCU. But uh, I think Michael Chiklis as the Thing was great because it wasn't CGI rocks. It's actually practical, costume and makeup that feel like he's actually there. I think that's cool, and I still thoroughly enjoy this movie. At least the first one. The second one, I still found it okay. I check it out every once in a while, uh, just to just to just to watch, not for emotional enjoyment, just to have like it's kind of like background noise sometimes, just to have it on. But the first one I think is still a solid film, and I cannot wait for the Fantastic Four to get their just due. These this is Marvel's first family, and matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure Reed and Sue's marriage was like one of the first and probably the biggest deals of Marvel marriages. Not even Marvel, but in comics in general, it was like a huge deal. You can easily look it up and some research about like the marriage in the comics between the Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm, and how it's like a huge deal in comics and amongst the comic book community. But yeah, I love the first Fantastic Four movie, and I like the guy who played as Doctor Doom in it, because I think he gets like a bad rap. Because I forgot who directed that movie. But anyway, I don't think he was given like he still did his job because he was popular in Nip Tuck. So I guess he was like that he filled that role at the time. So he was popular for a while because he was on the TV show Charmed and he was on the TV show Nip Tuck. He was the face for a while, and I'm not sure what he's been doing in the past few years. I haven't seen him in much stuff, but I thought he was a great Doctor Doom personally. I don't mind them recasting everybody, but I think Michael Chiklis should come back as the Thing, honestly, because he was probably my favorite. But Ian Goodford, who played Mr. Fantastic, I don't think he was a bad Mr. Fantastic. He looked the part, and he's a great actor. I've seen him in tons of stuff, and he's a great actor given the right material. They just needed to just replace Sue and Johnny, because obviously Chris Evans can't come back, and Jessica Alba, as much as I love her as an actress in most things, she did not do well in this. But yeah, check out the Fantastic Four. It's great. The first one. It's up to you if you want to check out the sequel, because if you're interested in seeing like the Silver Surfer. They really butchered Galactus in the sequel, relegating him to like just a cloud looming over instead of an actual. I guess at the time they thought like it was too stupid to have an actual big alien that's twice the size of a planet, or at least a giant that can easily you know uh you know can like easily crush the planet if he wants to, just like with the power of cosmic or whatever the case may be, however you normally depict him. He can shrink if he wants to like be able to walk on the planet at least, but he can just be as twice as big as the planet as well too. But he obviously is going to be back in. He's another MC. A Fantastic Four Rogues Gallery, part of the Rogues Gallery, and like one of the biggest threats that could be bigger. He could be like because I think he should be like the next big bad after Thanos. Because who's going to be bigger than Thanos? Obviously, it's got to be Galactus, a world eater. But people wanted to be Doctor Doom, but it's like, yeah, but Doctor Doom's, he's been beaten by 4 people on a regular basis, and sometimes the Avengers. But Galactus, more often than not, requires like a whole army of superheroes to deal with. It's not something that 4 people can do on the regular, because there's been at least a couple of times when the Fantastic Four had beaten Galactus, but it's usually with the help of some extenuating circumstances that help outsmart and beat him. But yeah, the Fantastic Four, and I kind of had it up to here with people saying like, "Oh, the Incredibles are the better version of the Fantastic Four." I hope, this is my hope, in the first Fantastic Four movie, I wish they have the Incredibles movie on, and I want like one of the team members probably sued to like, what is this rip off shit, and cut that crap off, and just straight up treat all those naysayers about the Fantastic Four and I love the Incredibles movie, but they're not the Fantastic Four. They just like it's kind of like the way there's different versions of Superman. There's different versions of this is like another version of the Fantastic Four that should have been done like it, yes, but to say it's better than the Fantastic Four in general, or some people probably just referring to just the movies themselves, but I find it just blasphemous on some level, because this is Marvel's first family, and you just because they had crappy movies by directors that did not know better during a time when superhero movies wasn't being taken seriously by Hollywood, isn't that fair? Plus, you got a benefit of being an animated movie for kids, so it's like, you kind of got a crutch. So that's just my take. Ghost Rider, Part 1 and 2. Nick Cage's Ghost Rider is just like a phenomenal. I love Nick Cage and anything he's in, no matter what he's in. I love him. He brings it full tilt every time. When he was like Snake Eyes or Face Off, Ghost Rider, Family Man, what was that movie, Adaptation or something like that. He's phenomenal in anything he's in. He's just great. And they in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in season 4, they brought in Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, one with like a Dodge Charger instead of a motorcycle, and they show a glimpse of OG Ghost Rider, obviously Johnny Blaze, but they didn't show it to be Nick Cage or anything like that. They just have a flaming skull guy passing on some Hellfire powers to Robbie Reyes. But in my heart of hearts, I really hope that was like a Nick Cage callback or something. But now these are not like totally great films, but Nick Cage elevate these films. It could have been just schlock and just crap all the way through if they used somebody else other than Nick Cage to be in these kind of movies, and it would have been probably forgettable. But what makes it even more memorable is mostly because of Nick Cage. The side characters don't mean crap, honestly, but you just want to see Nick Cage be Ghost Rider and Ghost Rider look awesome, which he does. The Hellfire, the chains, the motorcycle, just like an all around badass. And Ghost Rider, the character in the MCU, is one of the most powerful characters in the MCU, at least one of them, because like literally he's part of one of the most indestructible ones, and can easily, theoretically, by Doctor Strange's account himself, says that if allowed to go on uninhibited by the human host, the Ghost Rider can easily decimate even the Hulk if he wanted to. But yeah, it's just like that's how powerful like Ghost Rider can easily be, uh, with if allowed to let go and let loose. But just this movie, it's just you watch this just because Nick Cage, okay? And like it might be uh not tough, but it's just like the other sideline characters kind of have to. They're not. I wouldn't say they're not good, but just I like I said, this is like around time when Marvel movies or at least comic book movies wasn't taken so seriously. But damn, did they get close? At least try, because like you got like you know the first Ghost Rider movie, you blink and you miss it, but you don't realize that Rebel Wilson had like a bit part in this movie in the first one. It was like she came and went. And she's like she's been interviewed because I think this is the last movie I've seen Eva Mendes, because she's like the love interest in the first movie, and it's like I was telling some friends like I would think that uh, Eva Mendes was such a big deal in like the early to mid 2000s, and you would think she would have been like a huge deal, like on the level of Angelina Jolie. I'm just shocked that she did not. I'm pretty sure she was working, but I thought she would have been like this biggest, one of the biggest A-list stars on the level of Will Smith and Angelina Jolie. But I'm just shocked that that did not happen. But I mean, even Nick Cage still like renowned for his great work in a lot of stuff, whether it's bad or good. It's like Nick Cage is always the best part of the film. But yeah, Ghost Rider, you gotta watch it for yourself. I mean, it's like you can judge for yourself how the quality of the movie and the story is on its own terms, but it's because of Nick Cage. It elevates it to another level that you will still get some enjoyment out of it. Just to watch Nick Cage, just be free. Because I gotta tell you, any director who hires Nick Cage for any project, I'm pretty sure they should have the right mindset of just allowing Nick Cage just do what Nick Cage do, and I promise you, you will benefit in the end. But yeah, the Ghost Rider movies, they're phenomenal. Definitely check them out. Now the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now I literally had to debate whether or not to put them on the list at all, because even though they're a fun watch, they're not in my high category of favorite Marvel films. They're still good, because mostly because the music is great, especially in the first one. I like the music in the first one better than the second one, but the second one I think I like the story a lot better than the first, because you got like Kurt Russell as the villain, Ego the Living Planet, and just to see like these group just working together again, and just it's fun to watch them, especially Chris Pratt and all the other David Bautista and everybody just bouncing off each other. It's just phenomenal, and you can see like they're like they were more directly connected to like Thanos than anybody else. At least Gamora was. But man, this is like a awesome. It's an awesome film. I cannot say it is not. But a lot of people put this in a high category for them. I do not. It's like in a mid to low tier for me. But I think I like the second one a little bit more, mostly because of Kurt Russell and him playing off of this team. Yeah. So yeah, and of course like Yondu. Spoiler alert. end up dying for Quill, and realizing like despite what you might saw in the first film with uh, Yondu, the way he treat Quill in some respects, uh, ultimately he was like a whole better father than Quill's actual father, which made his definitely more sad. So yeah, that's why I kind of put Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 a little bit higher in my personal, in terms of like, at least if I uh liked any Guardians movie, is going to be Guardians 2. And I'm interested to see Guardians 3 because I don't know, I couldn't be sure if Thor Love and Thunder is mixed in with the Guardians, or the Guardians will have like just snippets with Thor in it, and he's gonna be off on his own thing to be in like the do his thing in Thor Love and Thunder. But I'm interested to see how Guardians Volume 3 is gonna turn out. It's not in production. It's probably will be in a couple of years from now, more than likely, and it's gonna be probably saying something about what it's gonna do. But yeah, Volume 2 is like a better film personally than Guardians 1, but I wish Volume 2 had better music. Another animated feature film. This is like a two in one, uh, surprisingly, because it's like a short film with Hulk versus Thor and Hulk versus Wolverine. I like the Hulk versus Wolverine a little bit more because you also get a lot of Weapon X kind of soldiers like Deadpool, Lady Deathstrike, and Omega Red fighting the Hulk. That's fun to watch. Just these, just to hear Hulk shout, "Hulk will smash claw people," and just like, and then calling Deadpool annoying man, and like, Hulk will smash annoying man's head or red man's head, and it's like, my head, and then watch Wolverine just chuck him, do a fastball special, and just chuck Deadpool against uh Hulk just to buy him some time. It's just funny. But it was like Hulk versus Thor. That segment though, that was more intense to a certain degree because you literally have like Loki bringing Hulk to Asgard and using magic to split his body, between him and Banner and the Hulk, and just having the Hulk just going on a savage rampage just to decimate Asgard. And just to see Thor and Hulk fight, because they fight a lot in the comics, but early in the comics, but it's uh it's an intense battle, and it's a worth a watch because it's both of these stories are great stories, and you get like a two in one special, and I think that's so cool. Haven't seen this in a while, but I thoroughly enjoyed this film. One of those good animated feature films, and I wish they do more of those. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be relegated to the Disney Plus original kind of content. But I hope they bring stuff like this back out, because DC is still chucking out, not chucking constantly, but like when it just like last year brought out like uh uh it's kind of like a choose your own adventure Batman story with Jason Todd, and so they still producing a lot of animated film content, original film content, and of course uh they gonna have like Disney Plus is gonna have like a Marvel What If show. I don't like the What If comics. I personally uh don't care for, like, because What If comics are kind of like dour stuff. I don't like the dour or just horrible endings to good characters. Like that's usually not from me personally. But uh uh I might check out the what if version for Black Panther, because what if Black Panther becomes uh, Star Lord, and that's technically Chadwick Boseman's final uh, acting role he did before he passed away. So I might see it that episode on its own just for that specific reason. But uh, I'm not saying it doesn't look cool, because I've seen like the trailers, and like there's like different kind of artists involved, and it looks like in each episode, which is very cool looking. But yeah, what if it's not for me? But I do wish they started putting more out like these original animated features. But yeah, Whole Verse is a very good film. All right, got Edward Norton's version of the Incredible Hulk, still part of the MCU, which was like a nice surprise towards the end with Tony Stark showing up in like a Stinger credit. And yeah, I mean, looking back on it, I think it was like the better Hulk movie. But since it's still owned by Universal, I'm pretty sure it's Universal who owns the Hulk, and Namor the Submariner. Uh, they're not allowing the MCU to make a solo Hulk project. So instead, they have to do a workaround by just doing like a team up thing with another hero, just to tell Hulk stories like they did with Thor Ragnarok, and just have Hulk in it and incorporate the World War Hulk storyline in with Thor 3, which kind of works out to their benefit. But people are dying for a singleized Hulk live action movie, but unfortunately with Universal holding on to the rights, I wish they should. I mean, I'm pretty sure they do have a uh, deal like Sony it does with Spider-Man. I'm pretty sure Universal has some kind of deal with uh, the Hulk. So if that is the case, Sony did a couple of solo Spider-Man movies with MCU characters guest starring. I don't see why Universal can't do the same, making another Hulk film with Mark Ruffalo, and just bringing in just like cameos or of MCU characters. I don't understand why they can't do that, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. And just pretty much like him trying to get Banner trying to get control of the Hulk. I mean, this is before like they like the end game, when they come to some kind of understanding and mixture to be Professor Hulk. But this is during a time when he just decided to just, if he can't control the Hulk, he decided to, okay, he can come out, but I'm going to aim it uh, to like the right bad guy, uh, just to make something work with this uh, other side of me. But yeah, this is like a fun film, great film. Uh, Too bad Edward Norton was like kind of difficult with everybody, because he could have been like a staple in the MCU as a whole, instead of just like being recasted like Rhodey was recasted by a different actor. But you know, it is what it is. But it's still a great film. All right, another animated feature, The Invincible Iron Man. Uh, this one is another origin retelling, and it's still awesome, man. It's like a lot of Iron Man animated movies is on this list, but I was going to say right off the bat, check them all out, because this one is just retelling of the origin story, but everything else is just like a different Iron Man story beat, not of his origins, but just another adventure. But this one's like, I remember watching this a few times as a kid. It was like so much fun to watch, just to have there's this Iron Man going through all these different armors, because it kind of brought me back to the '90s Iron Man TV show, when he just got all these different versions of armors, or even Iron Man Armor of Avengers. We got all these different armors for different environments and situations. It's so much fun to just see that, like the Hydro armor in the ocean fighting, or the space armor, which is my personal favorite, space armor. it just going into space and dealing with a particular threat. You just like, yeah, suit for any occasion, and it's like it was just fun to just watch. Another one, Rise of Technovore. Definitely check that out. Just like it also introduces like if you remember Obadiah Stane in the first Iron Man movie, he had a son uh, who also became Iron Man's Rose Gallery, uh, created some kind of virus, Technovore, which is another entity that became another entity on its own to be part of Iron Man's Rose Gallery. And, Iron Man pretty much got to fight them both. This also introduces, or at least had the Punisher as a cameo in this film. And Black Widow and Hawkeye is in this. But yeah, it's pretty much like an Iron Man movie with, War Machine and these few other heroes in this with them. I do highly recommend you check this out. It's an awesome film. Then you got the MCU Iron Man, the first three, uh, Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. Now, obviously, the first Iron Man movies are way better than the last two. But, of course, through time and perspective, we all, including me, has grown to a certain respect for Iron Man 2 and 3 than we didn't have initially after watching them. Because for the longest time, we thought like Iron Man 2 and 3 sucked. And we don't think so as much now. We don't think that they're as good, but we enjoy elements in it. Like, I wish they did Whiplash better and the Chrisman Dynamo, because they kind of combined Chrisman Dynamo and Whiplash into the same person in Iron Man 2. I thought that was just like a weird choice. And then in Iron Man 3, I I still would die on this hill. That what they did with the Mandarin was horrid. Well, horrible. And of course, they making a Shang-Chi movie with the proper Mandarin in it. And it's like, it might do well, yeah. But still, though, it's like, given one of Iron Man's biggest iconic villains to another lesser known superhero, it's kind of like giving the Joker to a hero like uh, a Blue Beetle. It might look interesting, it might be, but it doesn't feel right, you know? But all in all, I still enjoyed it. And it's like remembering all these three and then you watching uh, the Spider-Man films, you get a certain amount of appreciation for them now because like all the things that Spider-Man is learning a lesson from, you can compare it to what Tony had to learn on his own through these films. Like, you know, it's the man, not the armor or the suit. Because like that line still stick out with me in the first Spider-Man Homecoming movie, and Peter telling me like I'm nothing without a suit, and then Tony fires back like, if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve it. No, it's not anime. Speaking of which, there is a uh, anime type of uh, TV show that was out for a while for certain Marvel properties called. Uh, well, you can look it up. I might be wrong how it's titled, but type in like, or at least do a Google search for like uh, Wolverine anime, uh, Iron Man anime, uh, X-Men anime, and Blade anime. All those four, and type in anime, and you'll see like probably like a DVD box set or something of. It was also on Netflix. You can check them out on Netflix. At least Wolverine and X-Men anime is on the Netflix show, but not Iron Man or Blade. But there's anime style to them. But I wish they would have made more of those. Uh, they're not movies, so they're not on the list. But I do highly recommend you checking those out. Those are very good. But yeah, these Iron Man films are rock solid, especially the first one. To this day, A lot of people say that the Iron Man armor seen in the first film still probably looks slightly better than anything that came after it, but I don't necessarily agree, but I do understand where they're coming from because looking back on it, because I rewatched the first Iron Man movie early last year, and like, man, all that holds up. It still holds up. The Punisher Warzone. Now, I like the first Punisher movie with Thomas Jane. Well, this guy, I forgot his name, but Ray Stevenson, he played one of Thor's friends, the Warriors Three, Volstagg, which at first I didn't even recognize with all the beard and everything like that, but that's that guy. He played the Punisher. He played another MCU character before. Punisher Warzone is actually a pretty solid film. It's a little more hardcore than the first Punisher movie with Thomas Jane, because this one is pretty much based off the Punisher Max series comics, where they are allowed to get as violent as they want to be and gratuitous as they want to be without the whole comics code authority. But yeah, uh, this one you get to see the Punisher like just uh, go full tilt and just like utilize all kinds of weapons and uh, just just go as hardcore as he like. But yeah, this is actually pretty good. Uh, Not my favorite Punisher movie, but it's something like I still hold dear. Spider-Man: Far From Home. Now, this one I could not wait to see in the theaters. I'm telling you right now, seeing Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio was so much fun to watch, and him playing off Tom Holland. It, I think it was like around like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films. It was Jake Gyllenhaal was supposed to be initially considered for the role of Peter Parker for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, but Tobey Maguire got the role instead. So it's funny how things work out because now he's technically in a Spider-Man film, but just not Spider-Man. But everything, the everything about him, because we know as comic fans that Mysterio is not to be trusted, but regular Joes who don't read the comics or haven't watched the '90s TV show, the Spider-Man '90s TV show, don't know, and it was probably like a good surprise to them to see like this Peter being betrayed like that, at least conned to such a degree. And it's like, yeah, we like under everybody else's breath, like we know he's uh, we know what he's gonna do. Like he's gonna, we don't know exactly what he's gonna do, but we know he's gonna try to pull some fast stuff because he's a con man. Come on, but this film, it was so enjoyable, and the ending with J.K. Simmons reprising his role as J. Jonah Jameson. It was like a huge surprise, and like everybody was flipping their lid, like, how did he get here? And I think it's like, pretty sure it's got to be something connected to the multiverse of madness, but we just uh, don't know yet at that time. Didn't know yet at the time, but obviously it's got to be involved now that they're pretty much confirming that we're going to be dealing with the multiverse. So that could explain why we got J.K. Simmons, who never been here before. But I still love where they still continue with like the Spider-Man what the F moments, because like I didn't expect it to see it again. I thought it was just regular to the Spider-Man Homecoming with Aunt May. Which, speaking of which, at the time of Spider-Man Homecoming, or no, Civil War, everybody was like a little, find it odd that like this is supposed to be like the MCU's version of Aunt May. Why you cast Marissa Tomei, a very hot, attractive woman, as, I understand you didn't want Aunt May to be so frail like in the comics, like she's practically on death's door, but you don't make her look like a supermodel either. I mean, like, hashtag MILF May was trending for a while after Spider-Man Homecoming, and I contributed to that because you have like hot aunt, and it's like ridiculously hot, and that still like gets me to this day, even after this movie. It's like Marissa Tomei is beautiful. But yeah, man, I love this film. Spider-Man: Far From Home was like awesome, and I really hope they continue with the what the f moment. Just keep that going. And I kind of want MJ to say it next. And it's been speculated they're supposed to be doing like Hobgoblin, but Ned Lee's his friend in the comics is supposed to be Hobgoblin, at least one of the version of Hobgoblins. But that's another thing. In case I don't bring it up, why would you cast a guy who looks exactly like Genki from the comics, who's best friend with Miles Morales? You cast a guy who looks exactly like a different character in the comics, but you made him Ned Lee's, and it wouldn't. My brain, a lot of our comic fans' brains are trying to cope, or at least trying to understand that, or at least try to reconcile that, because that doesn't track. Like you could have cast somebody else and cast him as Genki, uh, just another character, and call somebody else Ned Lee's. Because especially if you're going to introduce Hobgoblin one day, not fat shaming or anything like that, but you can't have the guy who playing Ned Lee's now in the MCU as the Hobgoblin, because the Hobgoblin is like a fit man, and and it's like you can't have that actor like run around on a glider doing what Hobgoblin usually do. And of course, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Uh, Michael Keaton as the Vulture in this was fantastic, man. It's just he hasn't missed a step like after all these years. And he's been in stuff prior to this, but it's just like you feel that Batman energy from him to this day because he brings all that in. It's like, man, I cannot wait to see him in, because if you saw the Morbius trailer, the Jared Leto Morbius trailer, and he was shown in like a little cameo in the end, and it's like, oh, okay, that's what I'm saying. Like they bringing this like well together, because like Morbius is going to be a Sony property along with Venom, so that means that Venom is legit in the MCU along with Morbius and apparently the Vulture. So we're definitely getting that Sinister Six movie, but just they have to rework it, because, like, of course, in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies, they was hinting at doing like a Sinister Six movie, but that fell through. But now they get another bite of the apple, which now we're definitely excited to see. So move over Suicide Squad. So yeah, Spider-Man: Homecoming is amazing. I watched it a handful of times, and it just uh I wish because they cut out this little moment in this poster. If you've seen the trailer, you both see Spider-Man swinging in the air with Iron Man flying next to him. They cut that completely out. I don't know why. And it's like I was looking for that the entire movie in the theater and never came up. It was like very disappointing. But yeah, and this was like it was like a huge deal when it came out, when like when he, this is like literally days after the Civil War movie, and you see what Spider-Man was doing right after that scenario, and it's like a nice little piece that came together, and it was like just perfectly flow so well, like a nice seamless transition. And it was just like I love Zendaya's version of MJ. That was like a nice little twist. Of course, MJ in the comics was a model, and legit, you got a model playing MJ, but just not being a model, which is just it's funny. It's like how like that turned out. It's just like a nice little. I don't know if they was thinking about that, because just maybe just Zendaya was just, like, perfect for the role, but you literally got a well-known model cast in the role of MJ, who in the comics is, or at least was, a model for a while. So this is funny to me. But this movie is like, I can't recommend it enough. That's why Spider-Man is my hero. That's why he's on my profile on all my channels. And it's just that, someone I grew up with, and really based my morality and my concept of like right and wrong from Spider-Man from when I was a kid. You know, just like his idealism is something like I just wanted to emulate so much, and he's just like a great character. I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, man, that you talking about great films. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is like, yeah, top notch, man. I mean, fired on all cylinders. Just he it's probably the reason why we're dealing with multiversal stuff now in the MCU, because thanks to this, for the most part, yeah, because Miles Morales, anything after this and the video game that I played on my YouTube channel, Miles Morales is just winning, like just getting all these wins left and right. Cause like, uh, people thought they loved him in like the Ultimate Comic universe, and thought they loved him when he was brought into the main continuity of the 616 universe. But when he got his own movie and how well it did with the uh, bringing in all these different versions of Spider-Man that I read in the comics, and just blew me away. And Nick Cage as Spider-Man Noir, that was just perfect casting. It's like every dialogue he had was my favorite. Uh, I love Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and the 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 art in this was fantastic. Like they really like, utilize art so well. It's like, yeah, comics, a comic brought to life. Literally a comic brought to life. And Spider Gwen, like I personally don't want to have a daughter, but if somehow, I prefer a son, but if somehow I end up getting a daughter, like, well, if I had two daughters, one of them would be named like Carly, so I can have someone named after me. A boy, I'll be named after me. A girl, still be named after me, but the girl version. But if I have a second daughter, I'm naming her Gwen, because I love Spider Gwen so much. Like I love a lot of characters that I watched who name it had to be Gwen, because I just love that name so much. Gwendolyn, I just like that name so much. Spider Ham is hilarious. I wish they did more with Penny Parker. It's supposed to be like manga Spider Man, I guess, with the whole anime style. That is just fun. She was fun to watch, man. And yeah, it's just everything about that movie. Like the story with Miles learning to get into his own, and then coming to his own and learning from this hobo Spider-Man. Not hobo, but it's like the main 616 Spider-Man, the Spider-Man we knew, coming into the Ultimate Universe, because the Ultimate version of Spider-Man died by the Kingpin, spoiler alert. And it's like, uh, yeah, you see their dynamics together. It's like, especially when they had to infiltrate a building just to acquire flash drive, a flash drive. Uh, you get to see like him. It's just that he was reluctant of teaching Miles anything, because he just wanted to go home. But the fact that you get to see little wisdom passed on from him, like him mentioning like when they was taking a bus close enough to the facility, and Miles like, why can't we web swing? All right, first rule of Spider-Man, uh, don't waste your energy try to web swing to a particular destination if it's kind of a long way. You're gonna need that energy. Trust me. Especially if you gotta fight your way out, you're gonna need your energy. And always put baby powder in your costume. It keeps from chafing and it prevents sweating. Because when you're fighting, you're gonna be perspiring a lot. And you don't want that. It's just like those little hints. It's like it's kind of like it probably would be some to-do stuff that Spider-Man kind of learned over the years, because like that's why I mentioned in my walkthrough Spider-Man PS4 game. It's like if I write a Spider-Man comic book, I want it to be an experienced Spider-Man, kind of like this. It's like a Spider-Man who's been through it for so long that we know he should have been very knowledgeable about a lot of this stuff, to where he can just do half of this stuff in his sleep if he wanted to, because he's been doing it for so long. He knows the tricks of the trade. So it's like I like this, and it's like despite his reluctance on like dealing with what Miles had to deal with in his universe, he still went on his way to just he still deep down is Spider-Man, despite he's willing to like die and be left behind and close everything off and die, just to save everyone. And like despite what hardships he went through in his own universe, he's still Spider-Man through and through. And despite his like his mindset of being down on his luck, or at least hitting the bottom of the barrel. But I like also the art of when they show snippets of everyone's own dimension. The art is so different and it looks so good, and it's like it perfectly encapsulate. Okay, you know you can see that Miles' world is very unique from what the 616 version with Peter Parker is, and how different Spider Gwen's universe is. Because like, if you've seen the movie, you know the different art. It's like they took their time with this movie, and I guess I think that's why it took so long, because like everyone involved, and that's why it won so many awards. Everyone involved, put their heart and soul into this film, and like the art alone is just phenomenal. That's why I love using this costume in Miles Morales game when I was doing a walkthrough of that, because that costume looks so good, especially during that whole glitchiness, because it looks just like they made it make sure it looked very reminiscent of the movie with the way the art look, and not just how the costume looks, just how it moves, similar to the way it moved in motion in the movie. And it's like I love it. It was my favorite costume, like using in the game. So yeah, I cannot wait for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2. It comes out next year in April, same time as Sonic 2, and it's on the same month as my birthday. So I'm going to the theaters, watching them both, because I cannot wait for these movies. But Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 especially, because also in the end they showed off Spider-Man 2099, Future Spider-Man, and I cannot wait to see him, because he's my favorite alternate version of Spider-Man. Spider-Man 2099, Future Spider-Man. I cannot wait to see him in action, and what I'm pretty sure he's probably gonna be the center of the attention this time instead of Miles. So I'm interested to see how his story is progressing, and see if they can manage to up the ante with that story and build off of this, because this fired on all cylinders and got A pluses across the board. So I'm going to be shocked to see how they might top it. Of course, you got all the other Spider-Man movies: Sam Raimi 1, 2, and 3, and then the Mark Webb, Andrew Garfield movies 1 and 2. Now, every person that ever played Spider-Man, I thought did phenomenally. There's no person who played Spider-Man I hate at all. Even the voice actors who did cartoons or video game version of Spider-Man, I loved a lot, because they encapsulated that character at least nearly perfectly for the most part, but it's still good enough for me. But Tom Holland is probably like the perfect one, honestly, with just how young he is and how he represented Peter Parker compared to his Spider-Man side. Now, I love Tobey Maguire for the longest time. And he's always been my favorite one until Tom Holland came around and he kind of like pushed him to number 2. But the thing is, Tobey Maguire was probably the best Peter Parker, but was an okay Spider-Man. But Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man, but only an okay Peter Parker. Because if you've seen Andrew Garfield, he does not look the part of Peter Parker as like the nerdy scientist. Because they always trying to put these guys who were well in their mid to late 20s at the time into a bit of like just like a few minutes into the beginning of their first films in high school, and it's like that didn't work for a lot of people, but they still did their job well, and I still enjoyed them. A lot of people still relatively enjoy these movies, but William Dafoe's Green Goblin, I want William Dafoe to come back as the Green Goblin in when they got all these Spider-Man coming back in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 3 sequel. They need and you got you know I forgot the actor's name who played Doc Ock. He's coming back. They got well, Jamie Foxx Electro was the first one, the first villain to be announced to be coming back. So then everybody wanted like, okay, get the guy who played Doc Ock to come back. I'm like, why is nobody first coming to Willem Dafoe? I mean, I think uh somebody said they saw Willem Dafoe on set, maybe passing by or something like that. But I was like, no, I want Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. He was the best Green Goblin. I mean, the costume was a little Power Ranger villainy kind of costume, but I'm pretty sure they learned a lesson in trying to like make sure that all these villains' costumes and what they look like will be a little bit more better. Especially since they, of course, they got like the Scorpion, Tom Holland's Spider-Man: Homecoming. He had a cameo there in that movie. Alfred Molina, thank you, Daniel. Oh God, I knew it had like an M in it somewhere. But yeah, I was like, I want William Dafoe to come back because I kid you not, people still quote Spider-Man 1 mostly because of William Dafoe. His lines was like the best lines out of the entire movie. But like, yeah, Spider-Man 1, Andrew Garfield, I mean, Tobey Maguire was probably the most quotable movie out of the three. Uh, uh, I don't know if anybody quote that much out of the Andrew Garfield version because they try to play it like, serious-ish and not too campy like the Tobey Maguire ones were, but they all were still fun. I didn't like the Amazing Spider-Man 2's Green Goblin because that actor is not like saying he's like a bad actor, but just he wasn't good in that. That's probably I think they should have like did something else with him, but they had to include a Green Goblin. But that sucked worse than James Franco's version of Green Goblin Jr. That sucked even worse. But I didn't like James Franco's Green Goblin anyway. But this other one wasn't as good either. But yeah, definitely all five of these Spider-Man movies are rock solid in my book. I mean, even though Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 had definitely some issues with, especially with emo Peter Parker doing that goofy dance, and it's funny now, but it was so awkward back then when we first saw it, and it was like something that I tried to block out of my mind for the longest time. But we look back on it more fondly now when we got some perspective, because it's like with Batman and Robin with George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Uh, it's fun to make fun of. We watch it just to get a laugh. I mean, like, of course it's bad. It's like those bad fun movies. So yeah, I I love all five of these films, man. I cannot wait for these two actors and a lot of these villains to just get another bite of the apple. They might not have like a whole story beat, but they might. I'm not even sure they're gonna be regulated to just a glorified cameo. I mean, like you bring in Alfred Molina and William Dafoe and Jamie Foxx, they better have more than just a glorified cameo. You're wasting these great actors' times just for a glorified cameo, and how much a big deal everybody's making these things. You at very least give them 30 minutes of some time. 20 to 30 minutes of some time. Maybe that make it worth everybody's while. Okay. Now, Thomas Jane the Punisher. This is probably my favorite Punisher film. Because I think Thomas Jane was like probably, I mean, before John Bernthal and the Netflix show came about, Thomas Jane was easily my favorite Punisher. Live action Punisher. And like I watched it several times when it came out on DVD. Finally, I think I still got a bootleg version of it stored somewhere. But I still enjoy this movie, and just his fight with the Russian, this big dude with like who dressed like Where's Waldo, and just two fights alone, their fights alone was like very, very uh good and so entertaining. Just like this is like a glorified fist fight, or at least like he ripped off a toilet and just smacked him in the Punisher in the stomach with it, sending him through a freaking wall. I mean, it's like holy crap. And it's like, and he tried everything his darnest just to beat this dude. Uh, Ultimately he did, but it's like that fight kind of went on for like a good few minutes. It was like a few minutes of just watching like the Punisher just uh trying to beat this guy back. But yeah, John Travolta as like one of the bad guys it was just fun. The whole entire movie is great, but I do suggest that if you watch this movie, or at least if you get the DVD, try to hopefully they'll have the deleted scenes, because I watched a couple of times this movie on FX when it was shown on FX for a while. They included like deleted scenes in in the film that when I first saw it kind of informed a lot of certain missing gaps in the theatrical version. And I don't want to spoil anything. I think it's kind of worth you checking out on your own. But yeah, this is a solid movie. I really love Thomas James the Punisher. But yeah, John Bernthal is probably the one that kind of outbeat him. Excuse me. And then Ray Stevenson's version is kind of like low tier almost, even though he was probably the most graphic. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok. Now, some people like did not enjoy this because they think like was like a tipping point for a lot of people, so far as like, oh, like Marvel is at that point where they're just all jokes now, and it's like you got Taika Waititi directing this, and it's like sure, like Marvel had is movies that's like a lot of them are like pretty comedic, or at least has some comedic elements in it, sure, but not really any problem with that. Like everybody involved in this movie was so good, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I have a good laugh out of a lot of moments here. And Kate Blanchett as Hela, man, when she like had that trailer with her showing off like just like her the hair, the makeup, the black and green, everything, all. Oh my gosh, she is like still got it. I mean, she is a fine woman. It's like don't sleep on the older women, man, because like Kate Blanchett just aged like fine wine, and it's like even without the horns, when she had her hair down, and it's just like I just love like how that makeup looks on her, and it's just like that dark, it's kind of like that gothic kind of look on her. That's probably why I enjoyed it so much. But and she was great too, and people was kind of hoping, because she's played as Hela, which is like the Norse goddess of death. And I was kind of hoping that she would be like the MCU's Mistress Death for Thanos, but it didn't work out that way. But man, this was like a fun movie to watch, and yes, there's some jokey moments here, and it kind of feels like, I guess to a lot of people, it kind of feels like too much, but not to me. And you get to have the World War Hulk movie that a lot of people kind of wanted but couldn't get it in his own movie, but you still got it, and it's like uh, the World War Hulk storyline in the comics wasn't my favorite uh, comics, but I respect it. It was still good, but it's not one of my favorites. And I appreciated they managed to add that into the MCU in some fashion, because just having Hulk and Thor just go at each other for like at least several minutes, it was just fun to see. And Tom Hiddleston as Loki is always a treat, man. He played that role. I cannot wait. He played that role amazingly always. But when I cannot wait for his TV show to come out on Disney Plus, and I'm pretty sure right after Falcon and Winter Soldier come out next month, in April. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be in April when Loki's TV show will eventually come out. That'd be perfect birthday present for me for Disney Plus is to watch that show. But yeah, Tom Hiddleston as Loki is always amazing, and Tessa Thompson, she is so fine. It's a darn shame she's a lesbian. I mean, like, is what it is, but man, like, man, she is like amazing. And like she's an amazing actress. And like I mentioned briefly about like when Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson was cast to play MIB agents in MIB International. You expect their chemistry from this movie to translate into that movie, but it just did not work out for some crappy writing, and that's a darn shame because they are always great together, and I don't know why it didn't translate to that other movie. But I like these two paired up in films in this film, and I really want them to see them paired up. Just like with Kevin Hart and The Rock is always paired up together, I want to see Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth paired up in more movies because they are great in this. So yeah, this is a nice film, and this, of course, leads up into Infinity War right after it's over. So yeah, this movie is fantastic. Then you got the original Thor film. Thor: The Dark World is easily the worst film out of the entire MCU, at least in my opinion. But I think a lot of people would agree that it's very low tier. This is one of those trial and errors I was mentioning earlier when the Phase One was coming into play. That the MCU was still trying to figure themselves out through this entire thing. But I like the original Thor movie. I think it was a solid origin story. A lot of people complain about like people not being creative with their origin stories. Feel like uh, they just following the formula, essentially a formula for origin stories. And like I understand what they're talking about. It's the same thing they mentioned about Doctor Strange. It's like it's the same thing. He's repeating the same thing that we saw in Iron Man 1. And it's like, in my opinion, it's kind of like, yes, there's sometimes people when do origin stories, a director can make it unique. Like Batman Begins was a very unique Batman origin story. But other times you get something like Thor or Doctor Strange where you gotta do like sometimes you gotta do like your tried and true method of origin stories, and then that way they can be allowed to get to the meat and potatoes in their second movie or third movie, just to really like do what they actually want to do. But they gotta follow some kind of like trope here and there. Even though Thor: Dark World sucked on a lot of levels, I hate that movie. I don't hate the movie. I think it's just like a very the worst movie out of the entire MCU. And this is saying something compared to, well, it's still slightly better than Inhumans TV show. But no, I think the Inhumans TV show was the far worst, the worst product they ever put out, MCU put out. And then I think right above that would be the Iron Man season 1, and then above that will be Thor: The Dark World. So yeah, uh, the Inhumans is definitely the worst thing product the MCU put out, and it got. I mean, I'm pretty sure at some point they got to bring in the Inhumans, but they're gonna have to do some revisions, and because they trying to make for a while they trying to make the Inhumans uh trying to turn the Inhumans into the X-Men, because at the time X-Men could not be brought over into the MCU. They could not acquire the rights at the time because Fox was still holding on to it. They didn't they didn't get rid of their stuff at that time yet. So they trying to pivot and try to turn. I mean, this is around the time when they really was pushing Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, which I think she was great, and she's like the best part of the Marvel Avengers video game. And of course, they was trying to really force the Inhumans into the comics and try to make them, and like really trying to for a while trying to push the X-Men out, in the comics area, since they couldn't do anything with them in the movie area. But now after like the TV show bombed so hard, they just abandoned the entire thing. But they still are doing was it like a movie or a TV show with Miss Marvel? But they already cast a young actress for Miss Marvel. But once she gets her thing going, obviously they're gonna have to talk about the Inhumans again. But I'm pretty sure by that point it'll be long. It'll be like a long gap, a bigger gap enough from what happened with the Inhumans TV show up until the point of her thing, where people will feel comfortable with trying again with the Inhumans, but do it right this time. But Thor, the original Thor movie was a solid origin story. Chris Hemsworth is the first time a lot of people was introduced to Chris Hemsworth, and like he did Thor justice, man. I was like, I wasn't a huge Thor reader, but like I started to read a lot more Thor because of Chris Hemsworth, and I just love seeing that character in motion. And of course, Loki was in Tom Hiddleston. Loki was amazing. The only thing I can say that I didn't care for too much was Natalie Portman's Jane Foster. I don't think uh, in this movie they didn't do much with her. They slightly did something with her in Thor: The Dark World, but in Love and Thunder, once that movie come out, she'll be just like in the comics for a while. She was Lady Thor, so they're gonna bring that into the movies where she gets to be Thor herself too. So I'm definitely looking forward to see how that turns out. But yeah, definitely check out or at least rewatch the original Thor movie. You might still get a kick out of it. You might not. That's fine. I personally think this is a solid film. Then you got Venom. I it's like a good cheesy '90s movie, man. It's like I love Tom Hardy's Venom. This movie is amazing, and on top of that, my favorite musical artist Eminem did like a incredible song Venom, and it's a banger. I love that song. I love Eminem. My favorite artist. I love a lot of his music, but man, I jammed out to Venom to this day, and it's still such a amazing song, and it's like really encapsulate this movie. Honestly, I just wish they have like Woody Harrelson's Carnes didn't wear that stupid Ronald McDonald wig, but that is what it is. But I watched this movie at least 3 or 4 times, man. It's fun, and I just listen, and they made Venom look like Venom at least, because like for the longest time we had to deal with the fact that the only live action Venom was the that '70s show guy in Spider-Man 3, and that version of Venom didn't jive well with a lot of people, especially Venom fans. But this one was like a proper Venom. Venom 2, I'm pretty sure they're gonna make that R, hopefully, and of course, they eventually gonna have to bring in Spider-Man, because the only thing is he doesn't have the spider emblem on his chest, because he never, acquired, or at least was host for Spider-Man at all. And man, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for Venom 2. I enjoyed the hell out of Venom. Not ironically like most people, but I legit like this movie. And it's like they squash certain tropes, like his girl moved on to another guy, and the guy isn't like an asshole to Eddie. He actually is a fan of Eddie for a lot of his work as a journalist, and it's like fanboy out and everything like that. And he's actually a decent guy and helping Eddie and everything like that. That shook up a lot of tropes for a lot of movies that leads the new guy to being like an asshole half the time towards like the main character. And it's like that was a nice little subversion of expectation. I thoroughly enjoy this movie, and it's like I honestly cannot wait for Venom 2 and Morbius. Morbius is actually, despite what most people feel about Jared Leto, I think he will probably be a better Morbius than he was a Joker. Even though in recent days they did show the Zack Snyder's version of Joker and stuff in the trailers and everything like that, which okay, I still don't really give a crap about the Snyder version of the Justice League, 4 hours or not, or whatever he's adding in, or whatever the case may be. I might still check it out. I probably will check it out, but it's like I don't, this whole once it's over, I just want to be left in the dust and be done with it. This whole dark version of the Justice League. It's like cynical ass Justice League. I don't care for that kind of thing. I understand it's like this is a different interpretation. It doesn't have to be my interpretation of the Justice League. But when you first bringing out the live action Justice League together, at the very least, be let it be something similar to like Justice League Unlimited TV show. You want hopeful characters, uh, bringing hope to the masses, not like some uh, uh, just like a cynical life, like having like Superman thinking like I don't know if I want to be a superhero. It's like like or at least caring more about his girl than trying to do the right thing. And it's not my it's not the Superman that like I expect. Even though I love Henry Cavill, and they're finally towards the first theatrical version of Justice League, and they brought Superman back in his colors and everything like that. And he's smiling and everything like that, and it's like, okay, you're getting there. You're folding him into the proper Superman, but I gotta go through that whole slog of that entire movie again, but for 4 hours, and just to see a cynical DC characters. But I could be wrong. It could be fantastic, but Zack Snyder better uh, as well as he did with 300. He better do just as well, because I just wanted it to be over and done with. I honestly do. And finally, the entirety of every X-Men property: X-Men 1, 2, 3, X-Men First Class, the Wolverine, X-Men Origins, Wolverine. Well, scratch that. I just want to put all the X-Men stuff together here and just like a perfect collage. The only X-Men movies that I actually enjoyed, because I didn't see the last X-Men movie because I knew it was gonna be it's gonna suck on weak toast. But the first X-Men movie, the second X-Men movie, to some extent, X-Men: The Last Stand. X-Men First Class was solid, but I kind of like the sequel X-Men Days of Future Past a whole lot better. That did gangbusters, and it's a shame that afterwards, it took a dip in quality with X-Men Apocalypse. Like, what the hell happened? It's like you was on the right track, and somehow you just dropped the ball so hard. The only good scene I actually liked out of X-Men Apocalypse was the Quicksilver scene, and him, saving everybody in the exploding mansion to Sweet Dreams. And I'm still banging that song because honestly, that was an awesome scene. But afterwards, I didn't care anymore. Well, scratch that. I think they did have a no. Yeah, I think because they have like another Hugh Jackman scene in it. So there's only two scenes in it that out of the entire X-Men Apocalypse movie that I actually cared about. But then Logan, that one, that darn near broke me, man. That was like a sad movie, and it's like him and his daughter and everything like that. It was just like a perfect casting with that little girl. I'm pretty sure she's like should be like 15 by this point, because she was just like she wasn't like what, a preteen at the time when that filming, because she was just a little girl. It's like probably not even 13 years old yet. So by this point, she should be in like, mid-teens to almost 18 by this point. I'm not sure. But yeah, my favorite X-Men film. First X-Men, X-Men 2, X3 was okay. X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, Logan, the Wolverine. Yeah, those are like the good X-Men that I enjoy. But Hugh Jackman, was amazing as Wolverine. I think he won like our world record of like the longest he acted as a particular character for so many years, and it's like there's talks of trying to, because Ryan Reynolds is pretty much bugging him, like, and constantly, and of course they're friends, but it's like every once in a while you see Ryan Reynolds hanging out with Hugh Jackman, or even sometimes dressing up as Deadpool, hanging out with them, or at least there's one time when I think Hugh Jackman was Instagramming one time, and then Deadpool was in his bed, sitting there just hanging there. I was like, how long are you gonna let this man keep bugging you until you just come into the MCU with him at least for a little while? I want to see Hugh Jackman play this role again because he obviously wanted to be in the MCU as Wolverine, but the Fox property, wouldn't allow them to release the X-Men yet when he was there. But now things have changed, and it's like, how much money can Disney roll up in front of Hugh Jackman just to allow him to just to come back for at least a couple of movies and then recast him? Because I just want to see like Wolverine fight the Hulk. Just like how Wolverine was first introduced in the comics, he was fighting the Hulk, and it's like, oh my god, I was just like, I just hope like hope of all hopes for Hugh Jackman to come back as Wolverine at least a little bit. But yeah, uh, I'm excited for when the MCU bring in like X-Men characters in general. But that's all like on my favorite Marvel films. On my favorite Marvel films. Uh, if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave the comments below, and let me know which Marvel film are your favorites. So next time I do a video, I will be going through my list of DC films, my favorite DC films. Then, of course, I still got the favorite anime that I want to work on. I'll do a video on, and then favorite video games. Uh, this video kind of went on longer than I expected to be. The DC films are probably a little bit shorter. So it may be like, well, I don't know how long the anime one's probably gonna be probably just as long as this video was, and probably a little long with the list of video games because I had to go through a lot of history, like from like I guess like late '90s to right now, all the video games that came out, and those find the ones that I played and which one I actually liked the most. So that's probably gonna be like another long video, but I will see you all next time, probably tomorrow's, because it's coming up on 10 o'clock now. So I want to try to get some rest because I've been working all day and I just had to hurry up, get back on here just to do another video to get out the way. I'll try to post this as soon as I can, probably tomorrow. I just want to rest a bit. But thank you all for joining me. I will see you all soon. So take care, and I love you all 3,000.